What's up, guys? RotoZap here, and today we're going to be talking about the tournament that's coming up, hosted by Awesome the Sauce, and it's going to be also, I think, casted by a few other WizTubers, and I am competing in it. So I wanted to give you guys some tips and tricks for the tournament, kind of some strategy ideas, and kind of how to help your team synergize so that you can do the very best you can in this tournament, because it's going to be a really big deal. Everyone's really excited about it. I'm personally really excited about it. This is going to be really fun. So hopefully, these tips and tricks are going to help you guys out. So let's go over the base rules first, because this isn't normal PvP gameplay. So first of all, gear is being capped at level 100. So, and there is no exception to that. So you can only be using gear that is rated for level 100 or below. It doesn't matter if there's a version of it that's like lower, but you're using the higher. Like for example, if it's a pack item and you've got like level 110 boots, not the 100 version, you can't use them. You have to get the level 100 version. On top of this, resistance is being capped at 70% for a particular school. However, you can do 70% across the board. So this is going to make it a little tricky for Jades, because if you have full Jading gear on, you're easily getting above 70% resist. So you're going to have to get a little creative about how you're going to go about getting your resist up, because it's being capped. So 70% cap on that. No shadow spells at all. No Shrike, and definitely no shadow hitting spells. They are completely banned from the tournament, which I really like, and we just can't use them. And finally, the last rule that we currently know about, I think that these are going to be all the rules, kind of, but he's kind of been up in the air about like rules and whatnot. But the last one is an incoming and outgoing cap. He said before that this is going to be a thing, but when I reached out to him on Twitter, he didn't quite respond. So maybe he hasn't finalized a number yet. But there will be an incoming outgoing cap. We just don't know what it is yet. So just don't like overhaul it with the incoming and outgoing, because we really don't know what the cap's even going to be yet. So with that all being said, let's talk about some general strategy and general tips here. So number one, let's start with the basics, right? Character level. So you can pick a character that's actually any level. There isn't a rule saying it has to be a character between level 100 and 130. But the assumption is that since the gear is being capped at 100, that's where the characters are going to be. It's going to be characters level 100 through 130. That being said, there's actually an advantage to using a character that is level 100 as opposed to 130. So if you're using a character that is level 100, you're going to get higher critical rate, because if you think about it, if everyone's being limited to level 100 gear, the level 100 wizards are going to have higher critical than those that are 130. In fact, significantly higher critical. So when we're talking about advantages, if you're trying to do more critical, maybe if you're a hitting school, it might make sense to use a wizard that's level 100, because you're going to receive a bonus in critical as opposed to the level 130s, because as you all know, critical falls off as you get higher levels. So like 500 crit on a level 100 wizard is way different than 500 crit on a level 130 wizard. So that's a thing. But the advantage to using a level 130 wizard is you get more health, and you get innate shadow pip, or not shadow pip, you get innate pip conversion chance, because once you reach a certain level, you get innate pip conversion chance. You don't have to have any gear on for it. So it's very low, though. It's extremely low, actually. But it's there. And obviously, you're getting a huge boost in health. So maybe if you're a Jade or a support member of the team, it might make more sense to use a character that is higher level. But that's all I've got to say about that. Let's talk about team composition, though. So it's a 4v4. So the first thing that comes to mind when you think of a 4v4 is you want maybe a couple healers and a couple support members or Jades. I'm going to tell you right now that that might not be the strat because it's very clear that Awesome the Sauce has decided he wants this tournament to be very, what's the word? I guess fast. I mean, he does not want this to be a drawn out game where it's just people healing left and right and no one's able to kill each other. That's not how it's going to play out, and that's why there's caps on the resistance and caps on healing incoming and outgoing, because he really does not want people to be healing that much. So that being said, Jades are being very crippled in this tournament because, again, the resistance is being capped, so they're going to have to use worse gear, and on top of that, their incoming and outgoing is being hurt as well. So you can't even make a trade-off, right? Because you can't even make that. You can't. I'm not speaking English anymore, but you can't have less resist and trade that off for way higher healing incoming and outgoing, because both of them are going to be capped. So you kind of just have to have worse on both, which also means that you might be able to substitute resistance for damage. So that could be a thing as well, because Jades have a problem with accuracy and stuff. So perhaps find some gear that is giving you accuracy and keeping you at that level, or not the level 70, but the 70% resistance across the board. So yeah, but I think the ideal team composition here is you probably need at least 3 people that can hit. You need 3 people that can do solid damage and can provide pressure against the enemy. Now, if you do have 2 healers and 2 hitters, that's fine, but just keep in mind that if you're versing a team of all hitters, they're going to be putting on a lot of pressure, and it's going to be pretty hard for just 2 hitters to put on enough pressure to counteract 4 hitters. So normally in Wizard 101, defense is the best offense. If you have a very tanky player, that's typically all you need. But in this situation, since resistance and healing is being capped, we're not probably going to see that many people jading, because jading really is being kind of crippled in this tournament. So think twice about your team composition, because you're probably not going to want to do 2 and 2 for a healer and hitter. And as my recommendations for hitters, you definitely want a Storm. I think every team should have a Storm on it. Storm brings so much to the table. Anytime we're talking about something that's going beyond a 1v1, Storm has a lot of different things that they can do, as well as having so much damage that they can put a huge amount of pressure on the enemy team, as well as having things like AoE stuns and damage, AoE blade stripping and accuracy debuffs with sirens. They're not going to have access to glow bugs, but they certainly have a lot of things up their sleeve. I mean, they can even just Tempest spam, right? That's an option for them. And even a 1-pip Tempest from a really strong Storm, that's going to be doing 1k on everyone, you know? That's going to be hitting for a lot. So I think that everyone should have a Storm on their team. I think that that's going to be very crucial. You definitely want at least 1 Storm for a hitter. Now, for your second and third hitter, you could also do another Storm. You could do 2 Storms. Hey, why not, you know? Again, they put on a lot of pressure. They're really powerful. The only thing that they're not so great at is their survivability, because they do have very low health. A Storm can get the resist up. Like, my Storm gets a solid 56 resist with his level 100 gear, but it's still, the health is not great. So you need to keep that in mind as well. So you definitely want 1 Storm, maybe a second Storm, but you could also do a Fire. Fire is a great option as well. They have Ifrit for taking out single target threats. They also have things like Rain of Fire, Fire Dragon, Meteor, Scald. They have a lot of AoE and a lot of overtime, a lot of chances to break shields, and they're pretty good characters overall, I'd say, because they have pretty fair health and they can get decent resist. So Fire is a nice overall attacker that can kind of hold its own in terms of survivability. Now, for support things, highly recommend you get a Death. Death is super powerful for a 4v4. Death is so criminally underrated for a 2v2, 3v3, or 4v4 that I feel like I need to really stress this. Death has access to a lot of different things that can cripple your opponent's team. They have Beguile, which is the most annoying spell in the world. A Beguile from first is literally the most annoying thing I can think of. Virulent Plague is extremely strong. Even just regular Plague is very strong. They can bad Juju if they know someone's hitting. They can bad Juju and make that hit do nothing. There's also, what else do they have? I mean, they can do Empower, they can Sacrifice. And another interesting thing about Death is they can use Doom and Gloom. So if you are packing a Death on your team, make sure they have Doom and Gloom in their thing, especially if you're using an aggressive team, because you're going to want to prevent them from healing. So the fact that you have Doom and Gloom is going to set you apart from a lot of teams, because it's going to prevent the enemy from healing. So when you do verse those 2-and-2 comps that I was talking about, the 2 healer, 2 hitter, you're going to be at an advantage, because if you have Doom and Gloom up, those 2 healers are now doing nothing, because incoming and outgoing is being capped. So under Doom and Gloom, they're not going to be healing for much. Therefore, they're irrelevant to the team. So if you can have a Doom and Gloom up against opponents like that decide to do 2 healers, you're definitely setting yourself apart, and you're really putting yourself at an advantage, because they just can't heal and they become useless teammates, and then all of a sudden it's like a 4v2. So you can really turn the tide of battle if you decide to do that. So definitely Death is a very good addition to your team. Thinking as well, Ice is also a pretty good contender for a healer, or not healer, I'm sorry, my bad. They're good for a tanky damage dealer. Ice can blade up into stuff. They also have a lot of overtimes, and they can single stun people. They have Legion Shield. They've got a few different things that they can do. They also have a very strange spell called Cooldown. I think that's what it's called. It's Cooldown. And that's a really good spell for a 4v4, because you might have multiple opponents using AoEs on you, and cooldown takes 1 tick off of every single cooldown, or every single AoE kind of overtime on you. So if you have opponents that use like 2 Snow Angels, okay, then you can cooldown and take 1 of the ticks off both of them. I mean, now, of course, if you just have mass triage, that also works. We'll talk about life in a second. But, yeah, no, Ice, definitely a good contender for the team. And life, last but not least, life is a pretty good option as well. I think that, obviously, if you're doing life, you're probably jading, because I do not recommend you make a life your hitter. If you have a life on your team, it's because they're jading. So that's a thing. But yeah, no, if you have a life on your team, it's because they're jading. Do not let the life hit. There are better hitting schools. There are better options. So do not let life hit. But again, I kind of want to steer you guys away from having like more than 1 Jade on your team, because Jade, I really don't think that Jade is going to be very powerful this tournament. I don't think that that's going to be a great strategy because of all the rules. So let's talk about Myth, though, and Balance real quick, because I'm actually using Balance for the tournament, believe it or not. But Balance isn't that great for anything above a 1v1, because Lore Master isn't as strong when it's not a 1v1. Balance really, when you put it in a 2v2 or 4v4 situation, I mean, they have things like Power Nova, which are nice, because it can put weaknesses on the entire team as well as do damage. They also have Blade Storm, which is really nice, and they just know Balance Blade and stuff, which can be used to power up other teammates. So the way I'm going on my balance is I'm going to have damage, I'm going to be able to hit, I'm going to do damage, but I'm also going to have some supportive cards in there to assist my team. So I'll inform you guys about my comp as well after going over team comps. So I believe as of now, unless I'm horribly mistaken here, we're going to go with balance, ice, storm, and fire. So we do not have a dedicated Jade player on our team. However, I will be playing the role of support as well as hitting, and the ice on our team will also be a mix of hitting and support. So that's what we're doing. So yeah, so I just wanted to let you guys know what we're doing as well, because I feel like I don't want to be secretive about our stuff either. So beyond that, though, so we've talked about team composition. Let's move into gear and stats. So pet is going to be a really big deal in this tournament. You need a pet. I'm working on 3 different pets right now for my balance. I don't know which one I'm going to end up choosing, but I'm in the process of working on many pets right now. So you got to ask yourself what you want to get out of your pet, what is your role on the team, and kind of what you're doing here. But if you're a hitting school, that's just kind of a decision you have to make for yourself. Do you want to keep it simple, go with a triple double and maybe sock it on critical or something, or do you want to go all critical? I mean, it's really up to you for what you're trying to do. That kind of rhymed. So but if you're a support school, I do have some very specific suggestions here. I think you should avoid a ward pet. If you're a Jade, you're going to have 70% resistance to every school, no problem. You do not need a ward pet. If you're going as a Jade, you do not need a ward pet. Your best bet would be to go with a double resist, maybe even a double resist triple May cast is what I'm thinking for this tournament. If I were a Jade, I would be doing a double resist triple May cast pet, made with Legion Shield, Unicorn, and last one's up to you, I suppose. But no, definitely you want a pet that's just got double resist to help boost your resist up, and triple May cast. Now, of course, another option that I kind of just thought of on the fly was if you want to keep using the same Jade gear that you have on, because you're definitely going to be over the resistance cap if you use full Jading gear with a double resist pet. However, if you take the double resist out of the equation, and depending on how high or low your resist is, maybe just having a single spell defy or a single spell proof on your pet, you could even do a quintuple Maycast pet, the legendary 5 Maycast on a pet, and that could work. You just got to do what works for you, and you got to do what's going to keep you in those parameters of 70% resist. So honestly, you might not even need resistance on your pet if you're Jading. Just play around with it, calculate out your stats, mix and match things, and find out what kind of pet is going to be best for you. Letting you guys know, on my Jade's current setup, it would make the most sense for me to have a pet that just has Spell Defy and maybe 4 Maycasts. Because I think I get about 80 universal resists when I'm using my level 100 Jading gear. So that's just me, though. But if you're a school like Balance, for example, that kind of likes to use pets that aren't so damage driven, I want to show you guys kind of what I'm talking about here. So notice how I've got 57 resist, but 72 resist to the respective schools here. This is why I'm telling you guys that using a warding pet probably isn't the best idea, and that's why I won't be using a warding pet on my Balance, because I would rather just boost my overall resistance to everything as opposed to specializing in 3 schools and maybe having it work out, but then having to sacrifice other stats so that I can get the resistance below 70, or at 70 or below, I mean, because I'm only 2 over, but that's not going to work. It's against the rules. So I can't be using this with these stats, and I don't really want to give up my other stats for it. So this is kind of just what I'm rocking. So if you have a warding pet and you want to keep that going, like all you need is really double resist and socket on dealer, then switch it out for a double resist Maycast pet. Again, the double resist Maycast pet, I feel like, is the most slept on idea for this tournament, but I think it's going to be really nice for any school that is either jading or is maybe a school like Ice or Balance or Death that doesn't necessarily need to pile on damage. They kind of just want to be a little tanky, a little damage, a little tank, a little bit of both, getting the best of both worlds. So that's kind of my output on that. Or input? Why did I say output? I have no idea, guys. I'm going on no sleep. But anyway, so with that all being said, what other tips and tricks can I suggest for you guys? So we've gone over team composition. We've gone over gear. You want to get as close to that 70% resistance as possible unless you're going extremely offensive. If you're jading, be very conscious of your resist and try not to sacrifice your stats to get lower resist because, avoid having 2 dedicated healers on the team. You really only need 1, if none. So keep that in mind. And now let's talk about some of the techniques you can use for getting your team into shape and getting them ready for a tournament match. So reach out to other teams is a big thing. If you know other people that are entered in the tournament, scrimmages are a great way to kind of test out your team. So no, honestly, scrimmages are a great way to kind of test out your team and test out the synchronization of everything, because my team's doing some weird stuff. We've got some wild strats going on, and it's really important to me to see if they work in real life and not just on paper, because on paper everything that I've planned out seems like it would be okay. However, I want to test this stuff in real life because sometimes the real rundown of it plays out completely different than how it did in your head. So I'm going to be scrimmaging a lot when my team gets all their gear together, because I'm not wearing the gear that I'm using for the tournament right now, but I have it already. I'm just going to be playing with my stats a little bit. And like I said, I need to get some pets done so that I can really see what the gear is going to look like. But yeah, I'm basically done. So I'm just waiting for them, and then we can start scrimmaging people, and that'll be really fun. So definitely scrimmage people. Scrimmage. That's going to be the biggest one, because you really just can't, like, there's no other way of doing this than just practicing, There really isn't a better way of testing out how well your team works together than just doing practice matches and, doing practice scenarios and call-outs. So leading into that, though, with the call-outs, my next suggestion for your team is everyone should be on like Discord or Skype or something. I have no idea. Any kind of thing where you can all talk to each other in live time, and everyone should be like on a mic or their closest equivalent of it, and be talking to each other live, because talking to each other just in Wiz really is not the best. It's not great at all. Not recommended. Just get even the basic headphones that come with a lot of people's smartphones have a built-in mic. So even if you don't own a microphone or headset, literally just use your phone headphones. Like, that'll work. You just need a way to talk to your team. So I know that that's what my team's doing. We're all going to be able to talk to each other live time, and that's definitely going to help out with team synchronization. So other tips, last minute things here. Order. Okay, order definitely matters. So when it comes to order, you're gonna want to try to put your support people first, hitters last. And the reason you want to do this is because your support members are going to be the people that heal. They're going to be the people that can cleanse things, the people that blade. They're going to be the people that make the hitters able to do their job to the best of their ability. So for my team composition, for example, we're going to be doing me and the ice first, and then our other two hitters third and fourth. And it doesn't their order doesn't really matter. Like, if it's a hitter, it's a hitter, but you just got to plan out things and try to keep in mind kind of like order. Like, for example, if you have a death on your team that's a support death, and you have a life on your team that is a Jade life, put the Jade before the death. The reason you do this is so that the Jade can heal, and then the death can doom. And that's good synchronization, right? Because you heal, you get the value out of it, and then you prevent anyone else from healing. Those are the kinds of combos, those are the kinds of leeways that you're trying to look for when it comes to order. You want to think about all these imaginary scenarios in your head. Well, what if person X does this and person Y does that? What order would I want them in for the best efficiency? And this is kind of something that you're just going to have to run through in your head and think about, okay, well, what happens when this person's first and this person's not, and all that. But general rule of thumb, support members first and hitters second. So, with that all being said, I don't know how long that video was, but with that all being said, I hope you guys got some value out of this. I wish everyone the best of luck in this tournament coming up. If you guys have any more questions, maybe things that I didn't cover in this video, feel free to hit me up in the comments, and I will be responding to each and every comment, because I don't get a lot of comments, so it'll be easy to respond to everyone's comments. So if you have any comments, any questions, let me know, and I will respond to them to the best of my ability. And good luck to everyone, man. This is going to be a crazy tournament. I'm really happy that AwesomeTheSauce is hosting it. I really hope that this becomes a thing that we see in the future, because I would love to have like a monthly huge Wiz tournament where like every month King's Isle, because like all the money's coming from like AwesomeTheSauce and other donators, but maybe King's Isle once a month could host a Wiz tournament where they're the ones that fund it. And I think that would bring the community a lot closer. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Everyone have the best of luck in the tournament. Hit me up with any questions you have in the comments below. And that's all I've got for you guys today. RotoZap out. Peace.